Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hafiz Nur Salam and I'm from NK 19. So in this video, I'm about to tell you guys about comparative literature. So I'm gonna explain about comparative literature in general, and after that, I'm gonna try to use the comparative literature theory to literature's works. So according to Rene Welleck and Austin Warren on 1993, define three notions of comparative literature. First, the term comparative literature is used for the study of oral literature, especially the theme of folklore and its spreading migration, as well as how and when folklore goes into more artistic literary writing. Oral literature is essentially an integral part of literature. Second, the term comparative literature is used for the investigation of the relationship between two or more works of literature. The subject and object of its investigation are many things, such as the reputation and penetration, the influence and fame of the great work. Aspects studied include the image and concept of the author, and at a certain time, the factors of translation, receiving factors, literary atmosphere, and situation at a certain time. And third, the term of comparative literature is used for literary research in the whole of world literature, general literature, and universal literature. The term comparable literature is equated with a true literary study. The term world literature implies that what is studied is literature of five continents, ranging from New Zealand to Iceland. General literature studies literary movements and schools that transcend national boundaries. The concept of universal literature sees that literature still needs to be seen as a totality. Thus, the meaning of comparative literature, if you want to conclude simply, is the comparison between one literary work with other literary works, regardless of whether the comparable literary works are world literature, general literature, and universal literature, with the aim of searching for differences, similarities, or unity between one literary works and other literary works. So, after the explanation of the comparative literature, now we move to the example of comparative literature. So the first one is Black Identity and American Liberty in Hayden's Frederick Douglass. In Frederick Douglass, written by Robert Hayden, the author examines the inspiring personality of Frederick Douglass and makes predictions about how the man will be remembered in the future. One can see the usage of "this man" rather than the entire name of the very beginning of the poem. Here the word "man" is employed as a generic term with connotation like man and negro. So let's move to the line 7 and 11 of the poem. So these following lines highlight the true worth of the freedom that African Americans so fervently desired. The lack of violence, torture, and loneliness serves as a foundation for a life that is generally free and cheerful. People want to love and be loved. They want to live healthy standard rather than ones that have nothing in common with this rationale such as slavery. The poet recalls Douglass as a former slave who escaped slavery and engaged in an ongoing fight against racial injustice. The figure of a guy with great wisdom and love is instantly inevitable to the reader. Beaten, beaten to his knees emphasizes the extreme suffering that black people in America endure, and Hayden proclaimed the remarkable survival of black sake. The poem expresses the grave idea that the American relationship between freedom has frequently been filled with both color and dispute. The one-sided image of independence and liberty has typically been portrayed by literary personalities in their work, but Hayden takes a true and organized method in this poem. In reality, there are two perspectives on freedom: the real and the imagined. So the second example is Ain't Welcome Here No More by Ayodele Ayola. Uh, in this poem, the speaker informs the audience of what authorities and the police do when they treat black people unfairly or discriminatorily by acting irrationally or improperly. So let's move to the poem on line 3 to 11. From this line, we already can see how people, especially the authority like police, would like to do harmful action when they approach the black people, even though what they're doing make the men get killed or die, and while they are attempting to arrest them, they will still didn't care about their. Even though the men trying to fight, it would be useless and would be end up risk his life. The line, risk his life on the line, his knee is up against my throat is really showing us how bad the man in blue is. So, comparative analysis between Iodell and Iodell's but in I'm Welcome Here No More and Robert Hayden's in Frederick Douglass, the reader is given the opportunity to consider the presence of protest poems and the way in which they both celebrate freedom and steadfastly support the black community. Through their poetry, Iredell and Hayden both portray the tribulation and grief of African Americans. Major difference is that Hayden portrays his idea to a historical figure, Frederick Douglass, but Iredell uses the black person who gets bad treated by the police. So, in conclusion, finally, a comparison of Robert Hayden's and Frederick Douglass put forward some noteworthy views, and Iredell's "Ain't Wanted Here No Longer" is shown. Poets like Iredell and Hayden use their poetry to examine their Black identities, and while they appreciate American gifts, they also vehemently demand their Black existence. Due to the worst forms of racial prejudice, slaves and Negroes have frequently benefited more from liberty and freedom than white people. And I think that's all about on this video and about my presentation. And Assalamualaikum and thank you.